Live in 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome to the Dice Academy, a live Star Wars Destiny podcast, part of the Severn Gaming Network. I'm Josh,
And I'm Christian.
and we are a new live Star Wars Destiny podcast, aiming to bring you all the content in half the time. So, hello everyone. We'd like to introduce ourselves, so I'll go ahead and start. I'm Josh. I actually have so kind of history of my gaming. I have I've been a gamer for a long time. I started playing tabletop games with Warhammer 40K, about 10 years ago, into War Machine, into Magic the Gathering, and then from Magic the Gathering into pretty much every Fantasy Flight competitive game. I was a part of the Corp Draw podcast for Netrunner, and just love being a part of the community and being a part of competitive gaming.
Josh, I loved that Corp Draw podcast. It
Yeah.
was really good stuff. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm Christian, and wow, I've been playing games a long time. I first got into Games Workshop when I was 10 years old.
Okay.
Which is now 26 years ago. And from then it's been, so for many years then it was mostly war games, but then it
Okay.
became more card games like Magic. I got into that really early on, about 96. I first picked up my set of cards for Magic.
Okay.
And there's just been so many great games over the years. And of course, once Fantasy Flight started making a bit of a name for themselves with some really quality games coming out as well. I got suckered in hook, line and sinker as well, and I've been playing just about everything of theirs, it feels like, for a long time, and I think they've really got it just right now with these Star Wars games. Everything just seems to be everything's so good. I've managed to steer clear of X-Wing, but Armada got me, and yes, also
Nice.
and also been playing Destiny since before it was released because of Tabletop Simulator.
Sure. Yeah.
Anyway, that's us,
Yeah.
and that's me.
Awesome. Well, hope you'll enjoy this podcast. We have some good content for you. We're just going to blow right through it because we've got a lot to talk about, and we want to try and keep each of these episodes around the 30-minute mark. Kind of try and make it so you can fit it into a gym workout or a morning commute, something like that. So, what we want to talk about first today is kind of obviously Spirit of Rebellion just released just a couple of days ago for us. And man, that was exciting! Holy cow! So Christian had you got some packs, right? What?
Oh, we did.
What notable things did you were you able to open?
I did pretty well actually. I think probably the big pulls I got is I managed to get 2 4 speeds.
Okay.
Yeah, I got one Palpatine.
Okay.
And then I got 3 U-wings. I got 3 black males.
Okay.
I did pull 2 of Krennic, who
Okay.
I was
Nice.
originally super excited to build with. I
Okay.
mean, really excited when we first saw Krennic early days.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, since then, I've been slightly less excited about him.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll change, but I tried a couple of builds and I didn't seem to be able to make something that quite worked as I wanted it to.
Sure.
But still nice to see 2 of him because, of course, it gives you
Yes.
the options.
Mhm.
Those are my sort of the big legendaries. I did manage to get 2 vibro knives, which was
Nice,
important because I
nice.
really needed to be able to use those.
Yes.
And I kind of, because I had I got 3 boxes. I actually
Okay.
managed to get most of the uncommons.
Okay.
So I feel like I have got so many potential decks to build, Josh.
Mhm. Yeah.
I mean, and I've been trying to build decks for the last probably 5-6 weeks. Look on Tabletop Simulator. So
Right,
now
right.
we finally have the cards. Suddenly I feel like there's even more. I'm like,
Yeah.
how did I not
Yeah.
see this
It's
before? But now having the
it's
physical
kind of
card,
strange.
it does
Yeah.
make a difference, doesn't it? So
It really does. Having the physical card in your hand, it's so much easier to get the real feel of what the cards are going to do.
super true.
Yeah.
What did you pull, bud?
Yeah, so me and my wife, we got 4 boxes, and we had a fun opening party,
Oh, I bet.
and yeah, it was great. We were able to pull a really a decent selection of legendaries. We got 1 Palpatine, 2 4 speeds, we got 1 Krennic, and then just a lot of the other legendaries. We got 3 of Obi-Wan, 3 of Blackmail, and 3 of IG-88.
Nice.
But luckily, we also had our local game night is on Thursdays. So luckily, there's a ton of people there trading and stuff. So I was able to trade away some stuff for a second Palpatine and a second Chewie. So I
Ooh,
really
nice.
missing just a few legendaries. The only legendaries that I really missed that I really wanted was 2 Force Lightning. I got 0, and 2 handcrafted light bow, which I got 1 of. But besides that, I was really pleased with all of my pulls.
Great. So, well, it sounds to me like if you're trading for another Palpatine die and for Force Lightning, I can guess what you're looking to build.
Yeah, the thing is, I don't know if the deck is good. It's so hard to tell if it is or not because I think the deck is good. Palpatine, Elite Palpatine, I think is pretty good in a situation where people are not running a ton of removal. If they're trying to be as least
Yep.
interactive as possible, then Palpatine's just really good.
Mm.
If you can always resolve his dice, he's just dishing out tons of damage. But if you run into a ton of removal and control and manipulation, then that's where he tends to fall off. So I think
Yeah,
it's just a call, really.
yeah. I have played quite a few games against Elite Palp actually, and I kind of feel like it may well be that he seems potentially quite strong early on. Because another thing I've noticed is loads of cool new cards to put in their decks. People are often skimping a little bit on
Yes.
on removal. I
Yes.
don't know whether you've noticed this as well, but it just seems like
Yeah.
people seem to be running a bit less removal in their decks. So I don't know if that could sort of skew it slightly, because I think I've done the same thing. I just haven't put enough removal in some of the decks I've made, and Palp's just run me over basically like a monster truck.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, and I think that's actually the same thing that happened at the very beginning of Awakenings. People just wanted to play with all the cool tools, toys and stuff, and just didn't run enough removal. And now that we've got, all the premier decks, they just have tons of removal in all of
and,
them.
yeah, and I think if anyone's listening to this, wanting to do a competitive type play, this might be a little tip to think of when it comes to like right now. If you've got an upcoming tournament, maybe the next week or maybe even 2, just bear in mind you might get quite a few people who'll be coming along who'll be really keen to just get all their new stuff in their deck, and they might not have really brought enough removal, and that can be something to sort of anticipate, if you like, in the meta. And just something to bear in mind whenever a new set comes out potentially as well.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a very good point. So I think over time we'll see that decks start to gain more removal as decks become more refined. But for now, it's anyone's game. Anything can happen.
Yeah. So with this Palp deck, what sort of build are you looking at then?
Yeah, I'm looking at actually. I want like a consistent build with it. So I want a decent amount of upgrades, but also a good suite of removal. So I really find it hard to run some of the expensive like protection type cards. Like Rise Again looks really good for it, but I don't think it's actually that good. It's hard to actually come up with that money. So I want like just like a mid-rangey with some decent upgrades and some decent removal. That's kind of what I'm looking for.
Okay. I actually played in a lunchtime tournament today,
Okay.
and I noticed this thing of the maybe not quite so much removal,
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that was really cool was premonitions on a Rise Again.
Yes.
And
That's pretty cool.
yeah, so it was one of those ones where I think that's potentially something that could be really strong in your Palpatine build. Sounds like you've already thought of it, but for those of you who don't know it, Premonitions is a card that it's 0 to play, and when you play it, you can put another card from your hand underneath it, like face down, a secret card, as it were. And then when you then see your next copy of Premonitions, you can play that second copy of Premonitions, and it allows you to play the card under your first copy of Premonitions for free. So a Rise Again, which costs 5 resources and heals a unique blue force character, a character of 5 damage, and gets them a free upgrade out of your discard pile. If you're getting that for free, I mean that's just enormous.
And that's upwards of 9 resources worth of value there. If you if you get like a Mind Probe or a Force Landing from your discard pile, it's
and if you think
really incredible.
And it makes Elite Palp 20 health.
Yes. And
suddenly that's like a lot of other 2 character lists. And so I think being able to get that for free is I think that's probably worth 3 card slots.
It is pretty crazy. But one thing that actually is a little dangerous with Premonitions is that you can. So if your opponent has played Premonitions, and you yourself have Premonitions in your own deck, you can steal that secret card that they have. So it can be a little risky to do that.
Yeah, that's true. I think if there ends up being a lot of Vader in the meta, well, that's probably a bit of a given, but that might be something to think about with your Palp deck. That if you're running Palp or you're running a Vader, and you're using Premonitions, just be aware of that fact.
Right, yeah, I actually saw a funny post on the Star Wars Destiny subreddit the other day where a person had played Premonitions, and he put Noble Sacrifice under the Premonitions, and his opponent stole the Noble Sacrifice playing Elite Palpatine.
Oh, I love it.
So there are some definite counterplays to that, which is pretty interesting.
Amazing. I love it when you have a game like this that brings up these sorts of interactions. It's what makes it just colourful in the game like this. Josh, I've just been trying to build so many decks on Tabletop Simulator, but now that I've actually got a good pool of cards, I actually played today with a Jyn Akbar, an elite Jyn Akbar deck.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, quite. And I'll hold my hands up. I did it largely because I wanted to try out the whole ammo belt second chance thing. Now, and again, just for our listeners, for those of you who aren't aware of that, second chance, which you probably know because that's from Awakenings, allows you to, when a character is about to be defeated, essentially remove second chance as an upgrade from them and heal the character 5 damage, which would put Jyn back to what should be on 6 damage, with 5 left. But Ammo Belt is a card that you can, it's just a common from Spirit Rebellion, costs 1. Right. And it's a neutral upgrade, and it allows you to discard the ammo belt instead of discarding the second chance. So in a sense it becomes like another second chance,
right?
Which is clearly very, very powerful because I mean it's not only that they have to kill your character twice now, they actually have to kill her 3 times because I'm using it on Jyn. Now that is really tough to deal with. So what I thought was, hang on a second, she's a milling character. She's got a 2 discard side and a 1 discard side. And I started to think, well, look, I mean, there's a couple of cards in here that could potentially make it almost impossible to kill Jyn, because they've also printed a card called Cheat. Now that's a one yellow cost event that allows you to swap a card in your discard pile with a card in your hand.
Yeah.
So of course you could cheat back your ammo belt and play the ammo belt back out again.
Yeah, that's a pretty decent combination.
It's an insane combination. When there's also another card called Rebel, And Rebel is a yellow event. And remember, Jyn is playing these for 1 cheaper. So she's actually playing cheat for free. And Rebel is a 1 cost yellow event. So she can play that for free. And it reads, you need to have a discard dice out in the pool. But the effect of the card is that you can play a card from your discard pile, reducing its cost by 1.
Yeah.
So
Jyn plays an ammo belt from discard pile for 0. That's pretty cool. I like that.
Well, I don't know that I do like it actually, Josh, because I built this deck and it's got 2 cheats and it's got 2 rebels, and the deck that I built, it rolls a lot of discard, and so if you put those 4 cards together, second chance, ammo belt, cheat, and rebel. I mean, I also played, and I actually think it was overkill. It wasn't necessary. I played Starship Graveyard.
Okay, yeah.
So of course, if they did something to the second chance, I can get that back if I claim the battlefield. But I've also got cheat to get it back. I've also got rebel. I could play the second chance out for just 2. So
you can also play Scavenge if you wanted more of that version.
Yes. So there's all these ways to keep Jyn alive. I mean, and actually, it's not as simple. I mean, there is a bit of resource management because, of course, playing a second chance and that ammo belt does cost you 4, and that's not cheap. But it is ridiculously strong. I mean, in the tournament today, I won a game, and the guy basically killed Jyn 4 times, and I still won with the mill. Because the other card that you can put in is Lone Operative.
Right.
And Lone Operative is
that's Jyn's third upgrade, yeah.
Yeah, so that's for those of you who don't know it, a 3-cost yellow hero upgrade that has 2 special sides on it, which read, heal 2 damage from this character, or 3 if they're the last character alive. And I just can't work out, unless you are massively disrupting her resources, I cannot understand how you can possibly kill that character with that amount of recursion I mean, it's really quite astonishing. And then, of course, I paired that with Akbar, who is means I can play field medic.
Right.
So there's more healing potential there. So I mean, and if you really wanted to, you could dug in, and you could have things like that as well. So I mean, so because of that, I looked at this build and thought, well, as long as I don't mess up, Jyn's staying alive.
Yeah.
So how do I make a deck where I know the one character is just going to stay alive? I just got to make it mill nicely.
Right.
So I put in Con Artist, and I put in Spynet because I was running. So Con Artist also has a special, and I think this is a very powerful card. I'd love to hear your feedback on this card because I think this is potentially very powerful. It's a 2-cost yellow neutral upgrade. And it has 2 special sides on it as well. And the special reads, put 1 damage on this card, discard a number of cards from the top of an opponent's deck equal to the number of damage on it. So of course every round you get to use it. The first round it'll discard 1. If you get the special on the second round, you'll discard 2 cards. If you get on the third, you discard 3, and so on. So, I mean, if Jyn's staying alive, and she's doing Con Artist, I mean, it is not. And of course, she's got lots of discard sides herself. So yeah, what do you think of that then, Josh?
I think that's strong. Yeah. So I was chatting with some of my local players on Thursday about the second chance ammo belts combination, and I think that it does not make sense in a deck that's trying to do damage, because it's really tough to actually do damage when you're trying to spend all your resources on ammo belts and second chances. So I think the natural place for it to be is that mill deck, like you mentioned. So I think the mill strategy is really awesome with Con Artist. It's just an escalating. It's just more more cards each turn, and it's very easy to get that special, especially if you also run Cunning. Cunning's pretty good with Lone Operative and with Con Artist. So you just have just a ton of options to mill your opponent or stay alive for longer.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that sort of deck suddenly has a lot of tools. I mean, it's really difficult to kill Jyn. I think the way you beat this deck, guys, by the way, if you're up against it, is you need to go big on the disrupt, because they do find it difficult to do much if they're getting disrupted, or if there's lots of discard going on as well.
Right.
Because, I mean, if you're hitting their second chances and you're hitting their rebels and their cheats and all that kind of stuff and just discarding it, then it becomes significantly harder for them if they're just getting discarded and disrupted. But if you keep doing damage to that deck, guys, it's probably not going to be a game you'll win. And I think if potentially this deck gets big in the meta, then that's something to bear in mind. If you come across this deck, you probably need to start looking at more at your disrupt sides or your discard sides. And if you're deck building and it's in your meta, it's something you might need to think more about, having more discard and disrupt against it. But anyway, so that's one of the decks I've been working on. And the other one I managed to pretty much build is Vader Royale, which is a deck that of course I did like a series of videos on, which has been great fun to build and to play, so those have been the ones I've been really pressing in on.
Nice. So I've also been, kind of to follow up with the disrupt type of topic, that's something that I've been really heavily looking into for going forward. The two supports, the zero cost supports in Villain, Imperial Inspection and Salvage Stand, have really popped up in my awareness, and I really want to find the best deck for them. So to explain what those two cards do, Imperial Inspection is a zero cost red villain support that says after you roll a disrupt on any of your dice, you may exhaust the support to return an upgrade that costs 2 or less to its owner's hand. That's really strong against any aggressive deck that's got upgrades out. That is really strong. And then Salvage Stand is pretty awesome on the flip side. It's the yellow villain hero. I'm sorry, yellow villain support. It says whenever you roll a resource, you may exhaust the support to force your opponent to lose a resource. So those two are in conjunction can be very, very disruptive. So I'm looking to build Elite Unkar with a Death Trooper and a Stormtrooper. Because the Death Trooper himself, he's got the disrupt for Imperial Inspection. The Stormtrooper's got a resource, and then Unkar's got 2 of each. So it's very easy to trigger those.
Yeah, I think that's potentially quite a strong deck. You've got quite a bit of health there as well. So yeah, I think that could be a bit of a winner there.
Yeah, so that's my intention to test going forward.
Great. Now
there's a lot of different options there, so it'll take quite a bit of testing. So we'll see. And
of course, this early, it feels like there are still so many different builds out there that will be exciting, that will be really good fun. But I thought it might be quite good fun for us to have a stab at predicting the meta. I mean, forget the weather forecast. Let's do a meta forecast.
Meta forecast.
yeah, totally. So, is there something? What the big decks do you think could potentially be coming up?
Sure. Well, I think there's actually 2 categories of decks that we could talk about for the meta forecast, and that is Awakenings decks that received a lot of good tools in Spirit of Rebellion, and then decks that are new as of Spirit of Rebellion. So obviously the one that everybody's, I think the more exciting one is decks that are new as of Spirit of Rebellion, which is those are more tougher to predict. But one that I personally believe is going to be very strong is Poe Maz in Spirit of Rebellion. That's just a really amazing combination. If you haven't seen any videos of it online, it's just insanely quick. Hit and run on Poe and then activate Maz. You just and resolve all the dice that you want. It's pretty nuts.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I've played against POMAS on several occasions, and of course, the other thing that's made it really strong is the addition of some really big old supports. Things like the U-wing is another decent one to have in there. But I think it's thermal detonators. It just seemed like every time I play against POMAS, and they did that special with Poe, and it seemed to hit me with a thermal detonator. And and again with cards like Cheat, they can cheat that thermal detonator back into hand.
Right.
With things like Hit and Run and Maz's speed, like they're claiming they can Starship Graveyard and recur that thermal detonator. I think POMAS is very strong.
Right.
I'd also like to point out that, or maybe ask the question really, Poe Ray, do you think that, I mean it's going to be different of course, but do you think that could still stick around?
I do, yeah. I think it's a different deck than POMAS. I think it actually has a higher damage ceiling and higher total potential overall ceiling, but it also has a lower floor. Just because I think the POMAS combination makes it easier to get off Poe's special, but in terms of longevity, I think Poe Ray definitely has a better long game. But yeah, I think the Poe Ray at post Spirit of Rebellion they just picked up some additional tools, some stronger things to discard.
Oh yeah,
like the handcrafted light bow is just a strict upgrade to lightsaber. It's got really good options, for all the different things you might want it for.
Yeah, and I almost feel like as we're talking about Ray, the reason Poe Ray is also really good, of course, and the similarity with POMAS is the speed of it. The Ray, you can play the holdout blaster, which sort of goes better with Poe as well anyway. You can play that holdout blaster, you're getting those 2 activations, and that still feels almost as quick as, well, it is as quick as POMAS, potentially even quicker if Poe's got upgrades on, or there's just more. You could potentially resolve more dice, because of course with Maz your limit is 2 off her ability. So I would be really surprised if Poe Ray doesn't stay potentially very strong in the upcoming meta, but that's because I rather feel like Ray decks just potentially are really scary coming up. I think we're seeing. Han Ray has been brilliant in Awakenings and has been very solid as a deck. But I think Qui-Gon Ray, of course Poe Ray, maybe even Chewie Ray. Some people seem to be using that really quite nicely, because Chewie's going to stick around for a long time, of course, because of Ammo Belt and Second Chance, and Cheat and all those sorts of things. So I feel like Ray decks are really strong, but for those of us who might not necessarily have played with it so much, why is Ray going to be so much better in this upcoming meta then?
It is just one card, really, Vibroknife. The release of Vibroknife has really unlocked Ray, even more so than Holdout Blaster did. Just because it has the black sides for her modified +2, and it gives you the action upgrade double action possibility.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's really strong. And I actually think that Elite Luke with single Ray also could be a possibility. Luke is still just really strong with a lot of the new cards as well. Just good blue hero upgrades.
Yeah, and of course Luke Maz is something that could also work too. And I've seen that doing some pretty big damage. For me, the thing that not only Vibroknife with Ray, but I also think it's the force speed. And then if you're playing a Han Ray or a Chewie Ray, you also get access to fast hands.
Hands, yes.
And I think, again, these cards are making Ray very, very fast. Now, I think the big drawback is that a lot of people start to think, great, I can just go really, really fast, and I'm going to win. because I'm going to do everything before my opponent gets to do anything. But of course, it isn't that simple, and I think this is where the balance does come in. You still need to make sure you've got some decent dice to resolve, and of course, Rey, her dice aren't the best. So you need to be looking at ways of maximising her dice and making them better. That's where I think pairing with Qui-Gon becomes pretty strong. Even that pairing with Chewie, when you add in, he's got melee sides, that makes Rey's +2 infinitely stronger, and of course Chewie allows fast hands. He allows you've got the second chance ammo belt combo. Force speed is still then of course usable with Rey. Oh my goodness, there's just so many great and powerful cards that are coming together there to make really, really powerful, a really powerful combination of cards.
Yeah, and I think one natural result of all the speed that's coming out at the beginning of Spirit of Rebellion will be adaptation of removal as well as inclusion of defensive cards. A new card in Spirit of Rebellion that I think will make a lot of splashes is Force Illusion, which can just save you so much damage at the cost of a couple of cards off the top of your deck.
Oh yes,
that's a really powerful blue tool to kind of hedge against the gigantic damage that you may see really quickly. So I don't know. That's kind of I think where the meta will shift eventually is to the inclusion of some powerful protection and removal.
Yeah, absolutely. And who knows? I mean, I'm certainly not saying that our little meta forecast there is in any way exhaustive. I mean, I know there are some other. I mean, we talked about your build v Palp. Who knows if that's going to become something? I mean, it can have incredibly strong games. I think that the 9's Kylo Unkar 3-character deck could be interesting. Got loads of hit points. You've got, if you can keep 9s alive, that's going to be ridiculous things going on with him. I think we've mentioned most of the big ones, the ones that are going to be. I mean, of course, Vader Raider will still be strong. Because of things like fast hands in now. There are so many, and I think this is why it's exciting at this time with a brand new set of cards coming out. We have got so many options.
Yeah, I think in summary of this kind of meta forecast, there are many options that of decks that you'll see within the next few weeks. I think we'll eventually start to see, as some tournaments happen, some deck lists get posted. As a result of those tournaments, we'll see more refinements. But it's really any man's game at this point.
Yeah, totally agreed. So as we're coming to the end of our sort of allotted slot, guys, as we said, we wanted to keep this fairly brief. Josh, is there anything else you wanted to sort of delve into?
No, yeah, I think I'm good to go. I'm really excited to do some testing with some real cards in my hands, and I'm excited to report back on the results.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm the same. I've got another tournament coming up this coming week. I'll be taking new builds of a deck. So I'm looking forward to having a chat with you again live with all of our listeners, and letting you know how it goes.
Awesome. Well, I think this has been great. Thanks for joining us today on the Dice Academy and Live Star Wars podcast. And we'll see you next time.
Absolutely. Until next time, keep enjoying Destiny.
Thanks.